On today's Newsmakers, celebrity evangelism, a bold witness, and chaos in Nigeria. That and more coming up. Welcome to Newsmakers, a show where we go behind the headlines each and every week to bring you interviews with your favorite pastors, entertainers, politicians, and other notable news figures. On today's Newsmakers, we're joined first by Dylan Novak. He's the founder of Celebrity Evangelist, an organization that shares the gospel with famous entertainers all over America. And he's here to talk specifically about his evangelistic conversation with Ozzy Osbourne. Let's welcome Dylan to the show.
Dylan, it is great to see you. A lot has gone on in the past week. A number of celebrities have died, and they've made big news. You've got Hulk Hogan and many others, and it's been a tough time for people. A lot of people who grew up in the 80s, a lot of these celebrities, obviously Ozzy Osbourne, they were big during that time and after, and so a lot of people publicly mourning. Now, for those who don't know, you are a celebrity evangelist, an evangelist to celebrities. You've spoken to, I believe, well over 2,000 celebrities. And when we use that word, we're talking from a secular perspective, people who are well-known and famous. So let's talk about Ozzy Osbourne in particular, right? Because you've been in the headlines because you shared the gospel with him. And this was in 2023, just so we clarify for people, because I know there's some misinformation out there. You shared the gospel in 2023 with him, and he obviously died 2 years later. What was it like sharing with him? How did he receive it? Because obviously people have preconceived notions based on how they've seen him behave and live when it comes to how he might react. What was that experience like?
So Ozzy was incredibly kind. For anybody who's ever been to a Comic-Con, you know kind of how it works. You go in, you get in line, you wait in line, you wait in line, you wait in line. And the bigger the celebrity, a lot of times you are funneled through, you are rushed. That was not the case with Ozzy. Ozzy was very kind. He was very gracious. They did start to rush his line, but he told them, hey, I want to take my time. I want to shake hands with people, hear what they have to say. People, I heard him say, people have flown from across the world. I'm not going to rush them. And to his credit, he stayed 5 hours after the event had closed. It was like 2 a.m. when he was done. So I get up to him, shake his hand, told him it was an honor to meet him. And after just kind of a brief introduction, I said, the reason I came to meet you today is because I love and care about you and your soul. And I referenced an interview he had done where he said, I identify more as a Christian than anything else. And I wish I could read the Bible more than I can. It's written in a language I don't understand, which I've gotten a lot of people on social media. What do you mean it's written in a language you can't understand? Well, here's a couple things to consider. Ozzy was dyslexic, for one. Second of all, I'm sure he's referring to the King James Version, written in Old English. Nothing wrong with the King James Version, but when you're dyslexic, when you've taken as much drugs and things as Ozzy has, it's probably very hard to comprehend that. So I was
let's be honest, and I don't say this, I love the Bible, I love the King James Version. It's hard to read, even for me sometimes. I'm like, what's it saying, right? So, okay, yes, continue. But I think it's important to emphasize that.
I think that's why it's great that we have actual people who can read the original Greek, the original Hebrew, and put it in modern language. When I'm preparing for a sermon, I look like a crazy person with all my Bibles across my desk because I have different study Bibles and everything. So I got him, I refer to it as a New Believer's Bible because that's what Greg Laurie calls it, but it's the NLT, the New Living Translation. And so I told him, I got you this. And at first he goes, well, I still won't be able to understand it. I said, no, let me show you. It's, and I explained what it was. And he immediately grabbed it and he went right to the Gospels, just kind of thumbing through it. And he looked up at me and he said, well, I can understand this. And it just had such a sweet smile. He loved the fact that it had his name on the cover. Thank you so very much. And I explained what the other material was.
For a minute, pause there, because this is something you do. And I remember last time we talked, I think this is so incredibly kind and it shows your passion that I don't know if you do this every single time, but when you go to an event, you get a Bible and you put their name on it. You make it special for them. You personalize it for the person you're speaking to, correct?
Yes. And up until last year, it was sporadic because we just didn't have the funds to do that in the ministry. But with Ozzy, this was just something I felt on my heart. I was like, Ozzy would probably really appreciate this. Not saying other people won't, but I was like, Ozzy, I got to do that for Ozzy.
How did Okay, going back to Jack, so I mean this had a profound impact obviously on Ozzy in that moment at the very least, and in that next day at the very least. How did you leave it with Jack? Obviously he cared enough to tap you on the shoulder. He could have ignored you.
Exactly.
How did you guys leave it?
So, and the last thing Jack said was, he said, Dad doesn't keep a lot of his gifts. He gets tons of gifts. He's not a hoarder. He said, but that Bible and your gift that's on his nightstand, and everybody that's come over, he has shown them the Bible, shown them that his name is on there, that it's where he can understand it. He said, it's not in any way like, oh, look, someone brought me a Bible. It's like, I am honored I got this gift. And I had tears in my eyes, and Jack was like, I just can't thank you enough for loving and caring on me and my family. That just really meant a lot. And I told him, I said, I've listened to your podcast. Like, I forget the name of the guy that he showed me. I said, I had some thoughts on that if you wanted to hear it. And he's like, of course, lay it on me. So we talked for maybe about another 10 minutes about Jack's personal spiritual life. And he said, I'm still looking at your stuff. He said, I was not as on it as you were. And I said, well, I'm a procrastinator. If I wasn't going to maybe talk to you, I probably would have put it off for a few weeks. But he said, no, he said, I just wanted to encourage you that really had an impact on Dad. It had an impact on me. I can't speak for Mom and Kelly, but I just wanted to get your attention. And I saw Jack last December in Pittsburgh. It was very brief. He remembered me. And it was just, pretty much I was like, hey, just wanted to come by and say hi. It's good to see you again. How's your dad doing? Just know I keep you and your family in my prayers. And he's like, I appreciate it. And so it was, I felt very peaceful how everything ended with that.
Well, I want to have you back again very soon, Dylan. It's always great to chat with you. Appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Great to talk with you again.
You can find out more about Dylan's work at celebrityevangelist.org. We'll be right back in just a moment with more Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. Next up, Matthew Grech, an ex-LGBTQ activist who became a Christian, joins us to talk all about his legal battle in Malta. He faces jail time and potential fines for sharing his journey out of an LGBTQ lifestyle. Let's welcome Matthew here to break it all down. Matthew, appreciate you taking the time today. It has been a while since we last caught up, and you continue to be in the midst of a legal battle. You face not only jail time, but also fines for openly sharing your story of leaving behind a gay lifestyle, finding Jesus. You went out there, shared that story. You've been now in a multi-year legal battle for simply sharing your story. Where does your case, let's just start here, and then we'll go into the backstory for those who don't know. Where does your case currently stand?
Thank you so much for asking, Billy. Right now, I'm on to my 12th criminal court hearing in Malta. It's going to be the final oral submissions between the lawyers before the final verdict. It's been a very long journey. This was meant to be summarized legal criminal proceedings in Malta, but it ended up being this whole journey. So yeah, that's where we're at.
So you're heading into your 12th hearing in just a couple of days. What has it been like for you to be dragged through the legal system the way that you have, simply for sharing? And just so people understand, and correct me on any parts of this that you feel I'm missing pieces on, but in 2016, Malta became the first European Union country to ban attempts at what it called, quote, change, repress, or eliminate a person's sexual orientation, gender identity, and or gender expression, meaning, this quote unquote reparative therapy, or any attempt to help somebody who says, hey, I don't want to have these feelings on my gender or my sexual orientation, or hey, I don't want to live this way, that if you assist in that, if you attempt to change those perspectives, that is illegal, and that can lead to either fines or jail time. So that's the backdrop here. In 2016, Malta became the first European Union country to do that and to make that illegal. You then got caught in the crossfire. Let's actually talk about that first. How did this first start for you?
Well, it's a good one because it's not the first time that I shared my Christian testimony in Malta. But I would say what was different about this recent interview that I did was that I mentioned an international organization that promotes the biblical point of view with regards to sexuality and gender, and brings together pastoral carers and professionals all across the world to be trained, to be equipped to assist men and women who have unwanted same-sex desires or unwanted gender confusion. Not everybody wants to be LGBT, and people need to understand that. And there's a whole group of people all across the world for whom homosexuality and transgenderism is not a solution, would not bring them fulfillment and happiness. So after I did share what I shared, and it was a really good interview, practical, scientific, spiritual, it was a good all-rounder, I would say. But eventually 3 people reported me to the police, and many of whom are involved with the European Union and also the Maltese government.
So, you go on this interview, you share your story, you mention an organization that helps people. And I find this whole debate so fascinating around this, attempts to change or repress. If somebody doesn't want to live a certain lifestyle, and that's the choice they're making, as you were saying, based on their values, as a pastor or a counselor or somebody trying to help them, these laws actually prevent you from doing that, from helping people who are seeking this help. And you are somebody who has gone through this journey yourself, right? You were, as far as I understand it, you were an LGBTQ activist, essentially. You become a Christian, your life changes. And so because you mentioned that organization, do you think that was the thing that turned this into really this legal battle against you, just that mentioning of the group?
I would say it's a major triggering point. I think the LGBT lobby feels very uneasy with the thought of a body of professionals, a body of serious people across the world who want to organize themselves professionally and be recognized by the state, be recognized by the government. That is very intimidating for them. So I think that was definitely a major player. So yeah, it's just really serious. And right now, the European Commission is actually, there's this whole process where a project is being proposed for bans on conversion therapy to be binding across all EU states. So in Europe, this is really serious right now. And I'm part of X Out Loud, and we're currently working on a very important project, which we'll be able to talk about in the next few weeks, to counteract the madness that is going on in Europe right now.
Well, and I'd love to have you back in the next few weeks to talk about that, actually, because what is happening, you have Pavi Räsänen out in Finland, who's a member of parliament, who she was brought up on charges. She's going to fight this all the way to the Supreme Court. They're actually appealing and taking her to the Supreme Court over sharing a Bible verse from Romans on her Twitter feed. I mean, about homosexuality. This has become such a major issue. You have the buffer zone issues with abortion clinics. You have this real restriction on speech and personal stories and the ability to actually share faith, because these are faith issues, right? These are very literally Christian issues that are being restricted by these laws. Now, you were the first person, correct me if I'm wrong, in Malta who was brought up on these types of charges as a result of that 2016 law. Is that correct?
That's right, and I would dare say some of my friends and colleagues would say that it's the first case in the world, because even when I Google it and when I research it, I don't know of another case like mine in the world. So it's probably also that this was an attempt to have a test case to see where this would go in Malta. But interestingly enough, while my proceedings were going on, the Maltese government with the activists was already getting ready to amend the law. And whilst my case was going on, they changed and they added to the law. But the law says every combination of these 3 characteristics, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, None of these three and any combination constitutes a disorder, a disease, or whatever. But that includes heterosexuality. So I believe this is a very important and strong case to make as these proceedings go on.
We're going to have you back very, very soon to talk about updates on your story. I appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you. What a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Much love, everyone.
Continue to pray for Matthew as a decision in his case will be made later on this year. We'll be right back in just a moment with more Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel. For our final segment, we are chatting with Joel Veldkamp. He is with Christian Solidarity International, and he has a big update about a Nigerian priest who was abducted by terrorists recently, but that priest has now been released. Let's welcome Joel here to break down the story. Joel, appreciate you taking the time, as always, to come on with us. This is actually a very positive conversation we're about to have. A major development in the priest who was taken captive and taken hostage last month. Give us the update.
Yeah, the update is he was released on Monday, on July 21st. He was set free along with 10 women who were being held hostage by Boko Haram, this Islamist terrorist group that has been terrorizing Christians in Nigeria for a decade and a half now. So this is really a tremendous answer to our prayers, to the prayers of many of our followers and supporters around the world who have been praying for this man, Father Alfonso Safina. And we're just so grateful for this good news today.
This is not generally how these stories end, unfortunately. Very often, a person does not survive. They're never heard from again. I know that the details are sensitive surrounding this, and there's some things that probably can't be shared. What do we know about the condition of the release, what led to his release?
Yeah, there's only so much that we can say because, as you say, it is a sensitive issue. But he was held in captivity for 51 days, and then on July 21st, he was handed over to security forces, to Nigerian security forces, who then brought him to his diocese in Maiduguri in Nigeria. So we know it was a peaceful handover. We don't know exactly what led to it, but he is safe. He is recovering. We're told he's in very high spirits, but his family's asking for privacy right now as he tries to recover from this terrible ordeal.
So he's in good spirits. He's, as far as we know, relatively healthy, it sounds like.
Yeah, he will need some sort of medical attention, but as far as we know, he's returned mostly healthy, mostly safe.
Do we know the reasoning why he was taken? Do we have any insight on what led to that? I mean, over 50 days being held captive is terrifying. Why did they go after him?
He was a fairly prominent member of the local Catholic Justice, Peace, and Development Commission, and he was CSI's partner in delivering aid to Christians who have been driven from their homes by Boko Haram terrorists. So he was actually on an aid mission while he was kidnapped. And we don't think that was a coincidence. We think Boko Haram targeted him because he was part of this network that was helping to keep hope alive for these displaced people. So we think he was targeted as a way of targeting the whole Christian community in this region.
Well, and let's talk about the heroics of this, faith leader, because this is somebody who was living in Alaska, working in Alaska, made the decision to go back to Nigeria, a hotbed for persecution. More Christians die in Nigeria than anywhere in the world. He made that decision to go back. He is a partner of Christian Solidarity International, helping you guys reach out and help the Christians who are being persecuted there. Reflect a little bit on that, because when you first told me that, when we first talked about his being taken captive and we were praying about it, I was shocked that, and I shouldn't be because it's brave, but that somebody would be willing to give of themselves in that way, to leave a place like Alaska and to go back to Nigeria.
Yeah, it's really a very impressive thing. Lots of young people in Nigeria, especially well-educated people in Nigeria, just want to leave because the educational prospects, the job prospects, the prospects for life are just so much better in the United States or in Europe or in other countries. But every once in a while, we'll meet some of these really special people who have all these talents and have all these skills. And they say, I want to go home. And he wasn't just from Nigeria. He was from Maiduguri. This is the epicenter of Islamic terrorism in Nigeria. This is where tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people have been driven from their homes. This is really the worst part of the country. And while he was in the US, he was taking counseling courses and trauma courses, knowing that he would go back to Nigeria and hoping that he would be able to apply some of these skills in counseling survivors of Boko Haram terrorism. So yeah, he's a truly special individual, and we're so grateful to God that he's safely home now.
And then he falls victim to the very persecution he's trying to help fight. And I'm sure he'll continue in that fight and in that battle. But, I have to ask you, you mentioned Boko Haram, obviously a terror organization that has been terrorizing Christians and others. Tell us a little bit more about what they believe, their background, why they're behaving in the way that they do.
Yeah, simply put, the goal of Boko Haram is to establish an Islamic State in Nigeria and drive all the Christians out of Nigeria. Nigeria is a massive country, 200 million people. About half of those people are Christians. But in the north of Nigeria, it's a heavily Muslim majority area. And that's where Boko Haram has been the most active and where they have succeeded in killing thousands of Christians and driving many, many more out of the region. So yeah, they're an Islamist group. They want to create an Islamic State. They want to impose Islamic law, and they want the Christians gone.
Well, I so appreciate you taking the time and joining us as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Billy.
Please continue to pray for Daniel Elfina as he recovers from what unfolded. We'll be right back in just a moment with more Newsmakers. That's all for Newsmakers. Thank you for watching, and be sure to head on over to the CBN News YouTube channel. That's where you can watch the full interviews you saw on today's episode. We also hope that you'll check out our new documentary. It's called Investigating the Supernatural Miracles. We traveled America looking at the most compelling cases for medical miracles. You can watch that over at cbn.com/supernatural. As for this show, we'll see you back here again next week.